In the depths of space, Captain Gideon Rask, a fresh recruit of the Galactic Patrol, stumbles upon a dark secret that threatens lives across the galaxy. Racing against time, he dives into a treacherous mission to dismantle a human milk trafficking ring on Tortuga Prime. When justice collides with moral dilemmas, can one hero change the fate of many? Don't forget to subscribe. 91% of viewers enjoy our content but forget to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with our daily sci-fi stories and support a dedicated team of storytellers and content creators who rely on this as their livelihood. Beneath the shimmering light of the Orion Nebula, Captain Gideon Rask stood on the precipice of his destiny. He gazed upon Tortuga Prime, a planet shrouded in shadows, where hope had long been abandoned. Gideon's striking features were etched with determination. His deep-set azure eyes reflected the countless stars he had traveled through, while his raven black hair was kept closely cropped, a stark contrast to the metallic sheen of his combat armor. The air was thick with tension, and fear clung to the very fabric of its streets. The planet beneath him was a chaotic tapestry of despair, featuring stark contrasts between the gritty underbelly of crime and the lavish structures erected by those who thrived off it. The distant hum of engines reverberated through the night as he prepared for infiltration. With each passing moment, he felt his heart racing, a blur of anxiety and resolve coursing through him. "I won't let them win," Gideon murmured to himself, adjusting his sleek black armor, designed to blend him into the fabric of this dark world. Each piece was outfitted with cutting-edge shielding technology, adaptive to the surroundings, reflecting his urgency and determination. As Gideon moved stealthily through the desolate landscape, his keen senses picked up myriad sounds, metallic echoes of distant machinery, frantic breaths of passers-by, and hushed whispers exchanged in fear. The buildings rose like jagged teeth, remnants of a forgotten era, and crumbling structures dotted the streets, each telling a story of despair. A dark sky loomed above, heavy with secrets, and Gideon felt the weight of his surroundings pulling at him. The Orion Syndicate had made this world their playground, and beneath its facade of anarchy lay a chilling truth. They had enslaved women to supply a growing demand for human milk. It was a grotesque trade, sprouting from the deep-rooted evils of the universe, and Gideon was determined to uproot it. As he advanced, the shadows seemed to deepen around him, every flicker of light hinting at the dangers that lay in wait. The streets twisted like serpents, leading him deeper into the belly of Tortuga Prime. Gideon paused behind a dilapidated column, taking a moment to gather his thoughts and the intelligence he had received from the Galactic Patrol. He had spent sleepless nights poring over every scrap of information, piecing together the puzzle that was the Syndicate's operations. His mission was not merely about stopping a sale. It was a rescue operation, a fight for lives trapped in a nightmare. He pulled out the holo map, its luminescent blue light casting an eerie glow on his resolute face. As he navigated, he could feel his pulse quicken. The place where he was headed, a nondescript warehouse near the edge of the city, was said to be a hub of the illicit trade. Its steel doors were well guarded by thugs, and beyond that threshold lay the horrors of captivity. In the distance, an explosion shattered the night, making Gideon flinch instinctively. The blast painted the night sky with vibrant hues of crimson and gold, illuminating faces twisted in shock and terror. The chaos erupted all around, people scattering like leaves caught in a tempest, the oppressive weight of fear hanging thick in the air. He keyed his comm link, ready to call for backup, but the line crackled with static. "Damn it," Gideon cursed under his breath. Time was of the essence. The Sind ###Chapter 2. conflict and challenges. Infiltrating the cavernous warehouse on Tortuga Prime felt like stepping into the maw of a beast. The air was thick with the sickly sweet scent of alien flora decaying in the shadows, mingling with the metallic tang of sweat and desperation. Glistening, oily remnants lined the floor, remnants of questionable deals and half-finished ventures, indicating the sheer volume of illicit trades that had transpired here. Dim overhead lights flickered sporadically, casting long, unsettling shadows that waved like wraiths around Gideon's armored figure. Gideon clenched his fists, the cool steel of his gauntlets grounding him. Every echoing footstep seemed to pulse with a faint, irregular heartbeat. The darkness surrounding him felt alive, menacing. The nervous flutter in his chest quickened as if it sensed the danger lurking beyond the fog of uncertainty, a danger he would face head-on. "Mira, do you copy?" he whispered, trying to keep his voice steady despite the rising tide of anxiety swirling within him. The only answer was a soft crackle through his earpiece and the rhythmic hum of machinery somewhere deep within the bowels of the warehouse. Moments felt like hours as Gideon strained his senses, honing in on the ambient sounds. Metal grinding, voices, laced with accents from across the galaxy. The Syndicate members, a ragtag ensemble of diverse, morally ambiguous individuals, were as much a part of this planet as the cracked concrete beneath him. As Gideon crept deeper, grave shadows of discontent shimmered to life, revealing figures huddled in corners, their bones woven tightly with the fabric of coercion. The flickering lights abruptly ceased, plunging him into darkness. Panic surged through him, but there was little time to lose. A heartbeat later, everything erupted. An explosion reverberated through the ground like the crack of a cosmic thunder. The blast sent shards of debris flying, and alarms blared through the air, an indication that their presence had been compromised. "Mira, look out!" came a sudden shout from behind as Gideon spun to see her silhouette barreling toward him, narrowly dodging a surge of flames licking hungrily at the fringes of the engulfed warehouse. "Stay close, Mira. We need to get to the control room," he hollered over the cacophony, his heart hammering. Adrenaline charged through him, propelling his body forward in a blur of practiced reflexes. The two of them drew their blasters, the cool weight of their weapons steadying their resolve. They advanced, weaving through the chaos, dodging blaster fire that hummed past their ears in a terrifying ballet. Alien thugs, cloaked in tattered garb and burly frames, descended upon them with a ferocity once thought reserved for nightmares. Gideon felt a flicker of uncertainty rise in him, but with each pull of the trigger, each combat maneuver executed with precision, his doubt faded into a fervent rage. Every shot wasn't just for survival. It was a tribute to the countless lives hung in the balance, the innocent women trapped in the predatory grip of the Orion Syndicate. "Gideon, to the left!" Mira shouted as a hulking figure emerged from the shadows, brandishing a blaster larger than human proportions. Quick as a flash, they ducked behind a dilapidated crate, barely evading the hail of destructive energy, feeling the warmth of its aftermath against their skin. "I see them," Gideon responded with an adrenaline-fueled clarity, peering over the crate to assess their opponents. "We had to split them up." Mira nodded, her steely demeanor unwavering. "On three," she said, her fingers twitching anxiously against the blaster's grip. 1, 2, 3. They sprang from behind the crate, both offering suppressive fire as they advanced in tandem. Gideon felt the rush of every shot they fired, his every movement coalescing into a harmonious dance of survival against the chaos swirling around them. But in that melee, time felt distorted. Each moment stretched long with the weight of adrenaline and purpose. As they fought, the warehouse around them became a hellscape of screeching metal and chaos. Gideon found himself pushing hard against the very idea of defeat. This was their purpose, this was his fight. Amidst the clamor of battle hydra, the flashes of blaster fire illuminated the horror lurking within the warehouse, a tangle of makeshift cages and the sound of muffled cries. The realization sank deep into Gideon's gut like a stone. They weren't just battling syndicate thugs. They were battling a plague that had spread far beyond this dark corner of the galaxy. "Gideon, look," Myra's voice cut through the turmoil. She gestured to a nearby access panel, its glow beckoning them like a beacon of hope in a storm. "That could lead us to the control room. We can shut down their systems. Let's move." Gideon responded, his resolve hardening. Using the chaotic tableau as cover, they sprinted towards the panel, dodging incoming fire as they flanked a surge of approaching thugs. The air crackled around them, laced with tension and desperation as they agilely navigated through the labyrinth of crates. Reaching the panel, Gideon hacked into it with deft movements, sweat trickling down his brow as he entered the codes he had memorized during training. The screen flickered to life, revealing layers of information, security feeds, labeled maps, and the terrifying details of their operations. "Got it. We're in," he exclaimed, heart racing as he absorbed the information flooding his vision. "There are thousands of women being held here in brutal conditions. Let's get them out. This can't wait." Mira replied fiercely, determination alight in her expressive eyes. With the flick of a button, alarms began to resonate, cascading throughout the warehouse, signaling shutdowns. A desperate attempt to thwart the impending chaos they would unleash. Suddenly, a charismatic figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, imposing silhouette with emerald skin adorned in the insignias of the Orion Syndicate. His name was Roxel, known throughout the galaxy as a master manipulator, a puppet master in a web of lies. The glow from the panel cast an eerie luminescence over him, his eyes glinting like fading stars. Well, the Galactic Patrol sends its best, yet here you are. Two lost souls in a world of eternal darkness, he taunted, a sneer crossing his lips. "I do hope you'll make this interesting." "You're the one who's about to be interesting," Gideon growled, brandishing his blaster. But before Roxel could retaliate, a deafening explosion rocked the warehouse, a fiery wall tearing through the space behind them. Panic encroached as walls began to tremble and **Chapter 3. Important twists **. The air in the warehouse was thick, cloaked in dust and the weight of despair, yet it pulsed with an unyielding energy as Gideon and Mira braced themselves. The dimly lit chamber was chaotic, lit intermittently by the erratic flicker of overhead lights that buzzed angrily alongside the muffled cries echoing from the confines beyond the steel walls. Gideon felt sweat trickling down his brow, soaking the collar of his armor, but he pushed aside his discomfort. The mission was paramount. The datapad rested heavily in Gideon's grip, a cold reminder of the horror it contained. As the echoes of gunfire reverberated through the space, Gideon's thumb scrolled through the lines of data, revealing the unimaginable, a network of corruption that stretched far beyond mere trade. The human milk trafficking was merely the tip of the iceberg, part of a vast operation involving espionage, bribery, and an alien synthetic drug named Alara, derived from the very human milk the Syndicate so ruthlessly sought. "There are coordinates here," Mira said, peering over his shoulder, her voice a tense whisper. "It seems they're exporting it to multiple locations across the galaxy. It's being mixed with Alara to create something even more potent." "This isn't just about profit," Gideon's voice trembled with urgency. "They're playing God, experimenting without any regard for life. We have to dismantle this scheme, but we can't do it alone." Myra's brow furrowed as she scanned the room, her mind racing to piece together a plan. "We need allies, but who would stand with us against the Syndicate? They're everywhere, and they own half the political seats in the Galactic Union. Gideon felt a flare of frustration rising within him. The weight of the universe pressed down upon him. We've made enough noise tonight that we can reach those who are fed up with this tyranny. I'll contact the disavowed. They're a group that fights against these injustices. They're our best shot. As they made their way out of the warehouse, Gideon felt a mixture of exhilaration and dread. The operation had triggered something deep within him, an awakening, perhaps. The universe was painted in shades of gray where morality twisted and turned, fueling a desire to bring hope where despair had thrived. Days turned into restless nights as Gideon reached out to the disavowed, an unlikely alliance of mercenaries, former Galactic Patrol agents, and disenfranchised citizens who had once served the Syndicate and now fought against it. They were led by Cale Thorne, a formidable figure with a reputation as a strategist and tactician who had managed to evade capture for years while amassing a following of those disillusioned with the system. Gideon had heard whispers of Thorne, a myth and a hero wrapped in one. Thorne was known for his striking silver hair that flowed like liquid mercury, framing sunken cheeks that bore the marks of countless battles. His piercing green eyes, sharp and shrewd, held the weight of experience, along with a fire for justice that burned incandescently in his soul. Gideon had to meet him, to convince him of their shared cause. The rendezvous point was set in the ruins of an old space station orbiting Tortuga Prime, a once glorious hub swallowed by the Syndicate's greed. As Gideon and Mira approached, the station loomed before them, a ghostly silhouette against the star-speckled expanse, mechanical limbs of rust reaching for the void. "We're not alone," Mira whispered, her eyes scanning the perimeter as they stepped inside the dimly lit corridors, shadows and echoes playing games in the corners. A faint hum resonated through the metal walls, accompanied by the distant clang of machinery still stubbornly functioning amid decay. They navigated through remnants of the past until they reached the main chamber where Thorne awaited, flanked by two rugged ex-officers wearing the tattered uniforms of the patrol, their eyes glinting with skepticism. Gideon's heart pounded as he approached Thorne, unsure of how the man would react to their plea. "Captain Rask," Thorne greeted him, his voice a gravelly whisper, layered with intrigue and disdain. "What brings the Galactic Patrol to my doorstep?" "Truth and justice," Gideon replied, steadier than he felt, gripping the datapad like a lifeline. "I've uncovered something monstrous. The Syndicate is more than a trafficking ring. They're experimenting with human lives. They're creating a new breed of weaponized drugs." Thorne's eyes narrowed, a flicker of concern breaking through his stoic demeanor. "And how do you intend to stop them?" "I need your help. We can infiltrate the strongholds, dismantle their operation, but it will require coordinated strikes and the element of surprise. The disavowed has the resources we need." For a long moment, Thorne simply studied Gideon, as if weighing the very blood that coursed through his veins, searching for the truth behind the young man's determination. The chamber crackled with tension. Mira stood at Gideon's side, every pulse of her heart echoing the stakes of their gamble. "Very well," Thorne finally declared, his voice a low rumble as he crossed his arms defiantly across his chest. "I'll bring my people, but understand this: we don't follow orders. We fight to reclaim our existence, not to serve another's agenda. We stand together, or we fall apart." An alliance forged in rebellion began that day, rippling through the walls of the Forsaken Station with an electric sense of purpose. New plans took shape as Thorne shared intelligence amassed over years, moments of camaraderie breaking the weight of the tragedy they faced. The disavowed had knowledge of roots, weaknesses, and perhaps even alliances with other factions willing to join the fight. As dawn approached, Gideon lingered in the shadows, contemplating the battle ahead. He felt the wariness brooding just beneath the surface, a prelude to violence that felt inevitable but necessary. With Mira at his side, They dove deeper into the Syndicate's operations, planning raids that mirrored the swift brutality of flickering serrated knives in a vast cosmic tapestry. The next target, an industrial facility on the outskirts of Kalaris, known for producing Alara at an alarming rate. The air was thick with the promise of revolution as they gathered their forces, an eclectic mix of fierce warriors unified by a singular goal. Gideon felt alive among them, the weight of fear replaced by the undeniable pulse of hope. But even as victory felt tangible, shadows loomed closer. Spy drones created by the Syndicate buzzed in the night sky, hunting for the slightest flicker of disturbance. Alerted by a tip-off, they tracked the movements of Thorn's group, biding their time, waiting with predatory patience. As they embarked on their first assault, adrenaline surged through Gideon's veins. Chapter 4, The Climax. The atmosphere on Kalaris felt electric with anticipation, as Captain Gideon Rask stood surrounded by his ragtag coalition of rebels. Shadows flickered across their determined faces, illuminated by the glow of armed devices clutched nervously. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke and machinery, a grim reminder of the industrial hell this planet represented. Gideon could sense the weight of their mission pressing down on him, amplified by the echo of urgency in their war room, a makeshift gathering space strewn with holographic maps and scattered blueprints. Today isn't just about vengeance, it's about fate. We reclaim lives. Gideon's voice cut through the tension, galvanizing the crowd. They had gathered from the corners of the galaxy, former soldiers, survivors, disenfranchised beings seeking justice under the cruel grip of the Syndicate. Among them stood Aiden, an enigmatic figure with a striking similarity to a human, but he bore the skin of a luminescent blue, marking him as a Shiraxi warrior. Aiden had fought tooth and nail against the Syndicate, his people exploited for their bioluminescent properties, which the Syndicate used to enhance their weapon systems. His piercing green eyes shimmered with a silent rage that mirrored Gideon's, and a bond of understanding quickly formed between them. They were not merely fighting for the captives. They were fighting for their own existence within a universe marred by darkness. Once we breach their lines, we hold nothing back, Mira Voss added, her voice powerful, carrying the weight of experience that made her invaluable. She stepped forward, adjusting the grip on her plasma blaster, a tool of both protection and destruction. We must cover each other and be like shadows, living, breathing phantoms ready to finish this once and for all. The group responded with steely nods, and Gideon felt a sense of unity that was almost foreign to him. It was as if they all shared a common heartbeat, pounding in sync with the purpose of their mission. They moved swiftly under the cover of darkness, weaving through the abandoned factory outskirts, where oil drums and shattered glass littered the ground like forgotten relics of a lost civilization. The dilapidated buildings loomed ominously overhead, rattled by the whir of drones patrolling overhead. Gideon's mind raced, calculating their every next move, the stakes as high as the shadows that cloaked them. The first skirmishes erupted swiftly. As they made their way into the heart of the Syndicate's compound, alarms blared, bathing the environment in crimson light. Blaster fire erupted, and chaos engulfed them. Gideon dove behind a stack of crates, hollering orders above the cacophony. Aiden, flank left. Mira, cover us. The rebels roared into action, responding to the visible empathy in Gideon's commands. They pushed through the villainous tide of Syndicate henchmen. Each step forward felt visceral, pulsating with the fear of failure. Every gunshot fired was more than just a sound. It was a promise to the women locked away in the belly of this beast, welded to the reality from which they all sought liberation. The corridors were slick with spilled oil and the smell of burnt metal filled the air. Gideon fought shoulder to shoulder with Aiden, their movements in synchrony. The Shiraxi warrior was a force unto himself, a whirlwind of blue light that created a sense of awe amidst the grim reality. Gideon observed Aiden's agility, fluidly dispatching foes with strikes that seemed less like violence and more like a dance with fate itself, naming each fallen enemy, as if to grant closure to their demise. Deeper they ventured into the lair of the Syndicate. The exposed, industrial walls pulsed with a dreadful energy only amplified by the anguished cries of those captured. With every desperate scream, Gideon felt something stir inside him. No longer a mere rookie, he was a force meant to counteract the malevolence thrust upon the innocent. Over here, Myra's panicked voice brought him back to reality. She had found a hidden access point, leading toward where the captives were held. They stormed through mechanical doors, bursting into a dimly lit chamber packed with terrified faces. The shock of the sight hit him like a physical blow. Women of different backgrounds, their humanity stripped away, shrouded in blankets of despair. "Listen," Gideon yelled, his voice trembling with urgency. "We're here to rescue you. Stay close, and we will get you out." He could see some of them clinging to a flicker of hope, while others seemed paralyzed with fear. "This way," Aiden motioned, guiding the women toward the exit with an authoritative calmness. The newly freed captives hesitated, having been subjugated for so long that the prospect of escape felt too surreal to grasp. Suddenly, a massive shadow loomed at the door. A towering figure, the commander of the Syndicate, his presence an embodiment of the terror they all fought against. His dark armor glinted ominously, interwoven with dynamic energy lines that seemed to pulse with every movement, mirroring the impending sense of doom that enveloped the room. His eyes, a swirling abyss of scarlet, locked onto Gideon with a glare that could pierce metal, filled with dangers untold. "Captain Rask," the commander sneered, his voice rippling like thunder through the captive-filled chamber. "How naive to think you could thwart the great Orion Syndicate. You think yourself a savior? You're merely a fool." Gideon's heart raced at the audacity of the commander, both infuriated and emboldened by his bravado. "I'm no fool. I stand with those you thought broken." He lifted his plasma blaster, the energy crackling ominously, as a roar of defiance swelled within him. The duel ignited in an instant, an explosive clash of power reverberating through the chamber as Gideon unleashed a barrage of energy against the sinister commander. Their battle carried the weight of the entire galaxy, two forces colliding amidst chaos and determination. The clangor of blaster fire echoed like thunder in a relentless storm. Every attack by Gideon felt righteous and fueled by the desire to free the women, the reality of his mission colliding violently with the desire for justice. But the longer they fought, the more Gideon realized he had underestimated his foe. The Syndicate commander retaliated with a vicious skill that left Gideon reeling. Each strike felt like a hollow echo of determination battling against the armor of despair. Suddenly, the dark figure took a step forward, launching a spinning kick that sent Gideon sprawling back against the cold metal wall. Dazed, he struggled to rise, but this was not just a fight about survival. It was about threading hope into the fabric of despair. Mira and a *** Chapter 5. Epic conclusion expanded ** The mission reached a fever pitch as Gideon Rask found himself face to face with the Syndicate's commander, an imposing figure cloaked in shadows that seemed to wrap around him like a second skin. He reeled back momentarily, taking in the sight of this creature, nearly 7 feet of sinewy muscle, its skin a mottled shade of green, with veins pulsating visibly beneath a surface scaled as hard as the toughest alloys the universe had to offer. The commander's eyes glinted with malice. "Ah, the noble captain," the commander sneered, his voice like gravel grinding against metal. "You think you can stop progress? I built this empire on the suffering of others, and I will not let you destroy it so easily." Gideon felt the friction of fear and fury ignite within him, and he clenched his fists, grounding himself in his purpose. The air crackled around them with tension as the battle raged on in the background, the sounds of blaster fire and cries of anguish intermingling with his fervent resolve. "I'm here to end your tyranny," Gideon declared, infused with the adrenaline that surged through his veins. He steadied his breath, focusing on the lives that depended on him. This is not progress. It's exploitation. The commander's laughter reverberated throughout the cold metal chamber, mocking. "You think you understand? The weak exist to serve the strong, and I will not be undone by the likes of you." He lunged, his hand reaching for a weapon at his side, and in that moment, time seemed to stretch infinitely. "Gideon, watch out!" Mira shouted from the fringes of the fray. With reflexes hardened by an intense series of battles, Gideon rolled to the side just in time. The commander's weapon discharged a hail of energy shots where he had stood moments before, scorching the steel floor. Gideon retaliated, firing a round of his own with precision. The bolt struck the commander's shoulder, making him stagger back. "Is that all you have?" he growled, an expression of rage igniting across his features. But there was a moment, just a fleeting fragment of time, where vulnerability seeped through. Gideon noticed the soldier's sibilant breathing, the way his body swayed slightly, as if the pain momentarily destabilized him. "Your empire is built on the backs of the innocent," Gideon shouted over the din of chaos, hoping to reach the tyrant's soul deep within the madness. "You can't control everyone forever." The commander hissed, "Even if you win today, there are millions waiting in the galaxy. I am but a piece of a larger game." He seized a heavy blaster from a nearby fallen Syndicate thug, readying it against Gideon. Gideon's thoughts raced. This was no ordinary fight. It was a battle of ideologies, one that threatened to engulf all hope if he failed. Just then, a heroic surge of energy emerged from Mira and the coalition. They pressed forward, rallying behind Gideon, their courage bolstered by collective empowerment. Seeing their resolve, Gideon shouted out, "Together! Today we forge our future." He felt the pulse of unity forge a path through the darkness. With the allied team flanking him, they pressed the attack. The insurgents deftly took cover, their blasters lighting the dim chamber with fiery conviction. The commander was forced back against the walls, overwhelmed by the simplest but most profound force of all, unity against tyranny. Gideon targeted his attention back on the commander, who was now desperately trying to fend off multiple attacks. "You can't win against justice." Gideon pushed through gritted teeth, determination fueling his every word. "Not today, not ever." As the commander readied for one last desperate strike, Gideon charged, propelled by both vengeance and a deep-seated hope. He felt time slow once more as he drew closer, the sound of Mira shouting in encouragement resonating as a symphony behind him. With a mighty roar, Gideon launched himself at the commander. The momentum of the charge met his foe in a thunderous collision, a clash of wills. They grappled, but Gideon's spirit felt boundless, buoyed by the countless lives he fought for. Finally, he managed to disarm the commander, sending the weapon skittering across the floor. In that moment, something inside the commander cracked. Gideon seized the opening, a surge of energy pulsating through his hands as he locked eyes with the beast of a man. "Your reign of terror ends here," he said, grounding his voice in immense composure. "Then let's see who falls first," roared the commander, launching one final desperate assault. But Gideon countered, sleekly redirecting the charge, flipping the commander over his shoulder. With a swift knee to the back, he pinned the commander to the cold metal ground, holding him in place, breathless. As silence descended upon the room, victory was not just for Gideon, but for every soul that had endured suffering under this man's brutal rule. The face of fear twisted into disbelief as Gideon held the commander down. You will answer for your crimes, he declared definitively, handing down a sentence that echoed through the hall of history. The room erupted into cheers as the syndicate crumbled. The captives they'd fought so hard to save emerged from their cells, their faces a mixture of disbelief and gratitude, morphing into tears of overwhelming relief. Mira joined Gideon, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "We did it! We really did it!" she exclaimed, a wide smile breaking through her initial shock as she turned to faceless captives, who were now liberated. "Yes, but this is just a beginning," he replied quietly, his voice steady but infused with a weighty realization. "Even as we stand in light today, shadows lurk beyond." The air was charged with a cocktail of emotions, relief, fury, and above all, hope. Gideon turned towards the horizon, visible through a shattered section of the facility walls. "The galaxy is vast," he said thoughtfully, "but today we've sparked a change that will ripple far beyond this moment." As dawn broke over Kalaris, casting a warm golden glow through what was once a hidden fortress of despair, the team began to regroup amidst the remnants of battle. The liberated women stepped forward, expressing their gratitude in a chorus of stories brimming with unyielding spirit. Each tale, both humbling and empowering, fueled Gideon's conviction. "Thank you, Captain," one woman, her face lined with hardship but shining with newfound hope, spoke heartily, grasping his forearm in solidarity. "You've saved not just our lives, but our hope." "Not just me," Gideon refuted, "we are all part of this. It's your strength that will help us change the tide." He shared discerning glances with Mira. They both understood that many battles loomed in the distance. Each face he saw would fulfill a purpose. Together, they would combine forces against the looming darkness. As he stepped outside into the light, a stark contrast to the murky past they had fought against, Gideon felt a sense of renewal. The scars of the battles might never vanish, but they imbued him with wisdom. Existing wounds served as memorials of resilience, engraved with lessons hard learned. He knew that justice was a flame that could die out if not tended to, and right now, it flickered boldly in the wake of their victory. "We're not just freeing women. We're igniting a movement," Gideon emphasized, grabbing Myra's hand firmly. "We're the vanguard of a new dawn." His voice carried over the remaining rubble, igniting zeal within the crowd around him. As the first rays of a vibrant sun ascended high, they cast ephemerally radiant hues across Kalaris, signaling not an end but a beginning teeming with potential. A lasting silence wrapped around them, broken only by the cries of liberation echoing in their hearts as they turned together toward the challenges ahead. Determination filled the air like the smell of fresh rain after a long drought, propelling them into the uncharted territories of freedom. With the stars scattered above, gleaming like sentinels of destiny, Gideon Rask knew one undeniable truth: the journey of courage, resilience, and the fight against darkness would continue. For in every shadow, light awaited to be birthed anew. As he gazed into the distant cosmos, he felt the hum of hope guiding him onward. Who will rise to challenge the light? He pondered quietly, knowing deep within him that every achievement held the breath of future struggles. The galaxy awaited, an expanse swathed in entangled complexities and faint echoes of adventure, and his resolve remained unyielding. Today had been a triumph, but tomorrow beckoned with endless possibilities. And with a soul set alight by dreams yet to be fulfilled, Gideon Rask prepared to journey further into the next chapter of the universe, knowing the fight for justice extended far beyond him, an extraordinary tapestry of interconnected fates waiting for a hero to weave it together. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.